And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, elephants and zebras, gypsies and fairies. Okay, sorry about the lighting, but if I turn the light on over here, then you can't see me. But the way it is right now, you can see me, but it's odd looking. But then I am odd, aren't I? They're showing my age. Look at all that, and it's balding back here. Anyway, so I met somebody on Facebook. I was about to say the Facebook, but I met somebody on Facebook. Uh, did we know each other? Maybe. I think this person was on a different side of campus than I was. And those were the tough kids. At least, the way a lot of us saw it is that people on that side of campus were like the tough kids. Like, we didn't mess with them because we were afraid we were going to get our ass kicked. Although my best friend, when you kill yourself, you leave behind a lot of grieving people. And Wes, I miss you, and wish you wouldn't have done it. But then again, I've been on the brink myself, so I actually understand. But well, see, now you get the glare. Anyway, so no matter what, so I'm just going to leave the light on. Anyway, so I want to share good memories from those 4 years, which is kind of hard to do because the memories that are stuck in my mind are not necessarily good. Odd thing is, one of my good memories from that time, I would walk up and down the hallway. I think that's Boo. I would walk down the hallway reading a book. And I didn't want to mess with nobody. I didn't want to get into no fights. I mean, there were times I did want to get into fights, and there were times I definitely did get into fights, and there were times I lost, and there were times I won. And there were times it was kind of hard to tell who won and who lost, because sometimes the staff would just let you fight, until people were black and blue and bloody. And anyway, I never went to Arkansas. You were talking. Hopefully, you can see this video. So, now let me tell you something before I go any further. We have a group of nutters, crazy people, whacked out people, lying hypocrites. That's redundant. Who live in this area, who don't like me, and I don't like them. And in the past, because they monitor my videos, believe it or not, and they monitor my Facebook, which tells you how crazy they are. Actually, my girlfriend and I, we were in the store not too long ago, in the last couple of weeks or so, and I saw one of them. And as soon as he recognized me, he had a pistol in his waistband, not in a holster, which is really stupid. Just in his waistband, and they carry these radios. They're nautical radios or maritime radios. They're not supposed to be using those the way they use them. But anyway, so at one point, because they do monitor, and I've talked about people and incidents and life events. I mean, this channel is a vlog or blog or whatever you want to call it. So I say a lot of stuff. Although you do have to pay attention to see if I'm messing around or if I'm being, straight out. But anyway, so at one point they found out somebody's name, that I knew when I was in that place. And they made a fake Facebook profile for that person. And they sent me a friend's request. And at first I'm like, oh, cool, you know. And then I looked at the pictures. I'm like, are you a bunch of idiots? I know what he looks like. He doesn't look like that. Are you nuts? So I went ahead and told them off, and blocked them. And I was looking at a friend of mine's Facebook, because they sent him a friend's request too. Well, they're no longer on his friends list. So, you know, either they got blocked again, or they deactivated their account once they realized, oh, we're not going to be able to get to Seamus, which is not the name I was known by at the time, by the way. But like I said, I think you were in Anderson Division, and I was in Woodlands Division. Mrs. Rabinowitz, or Mrs. Rabinowitz. People called her Mrs. Witch or something like that, which I did not appreciate, because I happen to like and respect that woman. And when I was still living in Texas, when I was still living in San Antonio, I was living on Gardena and Vance Jackson. I actually was able to look her up, and I phoned her, and she was a math teacher in Anderson Division. And I phoned her, and I got to talk to her. For first, her husband answered, and you know, I'm like, well, you know, is this the same person who worked at such and such? And like, yeah, why? And I'm like, well, you know, it was a really bad time for me, but she was a good person in my life, and and then he just handed the phone to her, and we talked for a little while. She didn't remember me, but she was my teacher for one school year, and she left, and I went back the next school year. I was there 4 years, and I went back, and there was this new lady. She didn't teach us no math. She was a bigger lady, taller, heavier set. She had a haircut like the Three Stooges, and the way she put makeup on, she looked like Bozo the Clown. So I don't know if you were there that year, and if you had her that year, but this is not Mrs. Rabinowitz. This is a different person. This is the person who took over from Mrs. Rabinowitz. And she didn't teach us anything. She just, you know, well, like most of the people in that institution, they were there to warehouse us, so they just, you know, kept us busy. Well, that's true, though. That's what she looked like. That's my girlfriend in there, by the way. Anyway, so sometimes I would sometimes I did it a lot. I would take off up into the woods, and actually, I was sharing a scary story. One of the channels I subscribe to here on YouTube. I was about to say the YouTube again. It was scary camping stories. This really wasn't a camping story, but you know the trails. Okay, behind Anderson School, you go past that field, and there's the barbed wire fence. You hop the fence, and there's a sand trail that goes down, and eventually there's a cross. You keep going, and you get to Coletta Creek. And once we were on a night hike, and it was like we all stopped, because some of the kids, they saw something, and they stopped, and we're like, what the hell's going on? You know, and then it's like you could cuss, but then if the staff were pissed off at you or they didn't like you and you cussed, you got in trouble. You know, so, but anyway, so we're going, hey Socks, that's one of the kitties. Hey Boo. Boo. Yeah. Anyway, so we're going down the trail, and these kids see this here light. It's like the flickering of a candle, but it's red, and it's like coming up from the creek up to the trail, and we all stop and we're looking like, what the hell is that? You know, and then we all take off running, staff and kids and everybody. And we run. I don't know how far we ran, but we ran fast. And but I remember in the mornings, I'd go in there. Eventually, it got to this point where I'd go in there in the mornings. We'd go to the mess hall, or the whatever you call it, and I would eat breakfast, and then I'd take I'd do something so I could check to see if anybody's standing by the emergency door. I'd try to do it so staff didn't notice what I was doing, and I'd take off running. And I'd run back up into the woods, and I'd stay out there all day. I wouldn't come back till nighttime, and then I'd crawl through a window. But Anderson Division, I don't think you could open those windows, but Woodlands Division, you could open the windows in those dorms. Anyway, I'm trying to think of something positive to say, and I'm trying to. Archery, that I think the first or second summer I was there, had a really cool summer program. Had archery and wrestling and weightlifting. Weightlifting, I came in second overall for the whole campus, and I came in first for Woodlands Division. I was like, yeah, I could be a badass back then. And wrestling, I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm not going to say I was good at it, but I enjoyed it and I learned a few things. So when I was in fights, I was able to fight even better. So I don't think that was their intent, but that's what they got me to be able to do. So I was an even better fighter. So somebody got me on the ground, I could deal with ground fighting, and I could take if I had to, I could take somebody down, and I could be in charge once we were on the ground. So that was good. But like I said, there was a lot of violence there. A lot of sexual violence and a lot of physical violence, a lot of yelling and manipulation, and it was bad. But I mean, you seem to have had a better experience than I did, and that's good. But anyway, 6 more days and my birthday. So I don't know what else to say. I did the vocational program. Do you remember Mr. Hackbarth? He was sort of grounds management or whatever you call it. He drove that old mail Jeep, and sometimes he'd take us back up in the woods. So like there was an old barn over by what they called the ranch house. He'd just park the Jeep and take a nap, and we'd do whatever, just hang around. Well, eventually I was like, I don't like just sitting here, so I'd just take off, and go do stuff. I have some of my files from back then, and in there they remarked, he just walks away from things. We don't know why. He just walks. Why? They could have asked me. They're so stupid. And I went AWOL once. Made it past San Antonio. And got a week in isolation for that. Locked door. Building number 5, they called it. That's where I spent my week in isolation. But that's a really strange experience, because if you ever experienced isolation, you're in your underwear, you have a blanket, and you have one of them plastic covered mattresses. That's it. You don't have nothing. To this day, I swear there was a clock up on that wall, because I would sit there and I'd watch it every second, tick, 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 tick. Then I would go minute, then the next minute, and then I would be able to do the hours. I did not have a ball, but I can remember as if I were throwing the ball, like it hit the floor of the wall and then back to me. I can remember going through that, but I didn't have a ball to do that with. When you had to go to the bathroom, you had to get their attention, but you could be sitting there knocking on the door for an hour. They didn't, and they just, they were getting paid for just sitting there. Anyway. But if you were in Anderson Division, then you probably had some different experiences than me. Although Wesley was over in Anderson Division, but he was only there a week. They kicked him out. Couldn't handle him. Anyway, it's been 15 and a half minutes, so I'll just end this for now. You remember going fishing and canoeing? They called it Lake Marie, even though it was just a stock pond. They call it stock tank, stock pond. And then the vocational program, there was welding. I did welding. First, they were going to put me in auto mechanics. But I was like, I just walked away from that too. They put me in welding with Mr. Doig, and that was fun. I like welding. I did good in that. 2 years of that. Anyway,